Cross-cultural context is the ways or interaction between two groups of people or more than that come from different cultures, communicate with each other in many various styles. Disparate ideas from disparate people lead to many kinds of problems. As China is from Asia continent and the United States of America is from North America continent, these two countries suffer a lot from all the problems in how they can communicate with each other. Thus, in this video, we mainly discuss about the cross-cultural communication between the US and China, which cover how Chinese communicate, how Americans communicate, differences between these two cultures, communication barriers, how to avoid those problems, and my final thought of intercultural communication. First of all, the ways that Chinese communicate and their culture are much more different from the US. In China, they are more religious and still practice the old tradition from the ancestors. Currently, they have four main important practices, which are faith, Confucianism, collectivism versus individualism, and nonverbal communication. In this case of study, faith refers to reputation, honor, or respect, which is divided into four types and named differently in Chinese letter. Besides that, Chinese people practice Confucianism, which basically teaches about the importance of relationship between two people. Moreover, China is a collective society, which means they consider other people feeling important, such as they do not do anything that cause other people embarrassment in public and even sacrifice themselves for group benefits. Most importantly, Chinese people use nonverbal communication, which depends on facial expression. For instance, staring at other people's eyes is considered to be rude, and scowling is the sign of disapproval. On the other hand, there are a lot more differences when it comes to American lifestyle. Basically, the way the Americans greet each other is very simple, yet informal and casual. Normally, they can just shake hands with a simple smile. Plus, they sometimes can just nod their head or say a phrase, "Give me five." More than that, they also like to use abbreviations to talk. For example, they say "give me" instead of "give me," "accept" instead of "as soon as possible," and more. Besides greeting informal, they can be rude to some strangers because they are found to be very direct and open. They are like to be straightforward, which makes some strangers think that they are rude. Interestingly, the majority of people in the US believe that there are no points to use indirect communication since they consider it as confusing and unnecessary. So now, let's look at some cultural differences between these two countries. A specific difference between the US and China is invading into someone's privacy. Privacy is one of the issues that is considered differently based on different cultures. We find out that Americans are more respectful to that. For instance, most of Chinese people ask about your family, your rank, your relationship status, while Americans do not seem to care because they consider it as other people's business, and they always remind themselves with one meaningful phrase, "mind your own business." Nevertheless, we can also see a huge difference between these two countries with their politeness and manner. We refer this to when people say sorry, thank you, and excuse me. All those phrases show how polite you are and your real manner. However, we rarely hear Chinese people say all those words in their daily life because most of them think that it is over polite. As you can see, in Cambodia, Chinese people just walk away without saying anything when they bump into you in public space. Another thing is about how these two regions deal with problems, or in short, we can say conflict resolutions. When we talk about conflict, we must think of how to save your own pride and reputation. Americans mostly solve their problems themselves without help from other people, while Chinese people use third party. Most importantly, Chinese people will still claim themselves to be right even though they are wrong, since they consider confrontation as rude and do not want to reveal themselves. An important communication barrier that they face is language barrier. It is known to be very hard for Chinese people to use English in order to communicate with Americans, as well as for Americans to use Chinese in order to communicate with Chinese people, because these two languages are completely different from each other in both writing and speaking. It is connected to lesser language skill, which means they do not know the right time for using formal and informal words or phrases. For instance, sometimes you hear a story from other people talking good about you, but you misjudge them and think that they talk bad about you because you do not really understand what they say. There are always solutions to every problem, so understanding the communication styles of each country would be the best to avoid those problems. People from China must try to understand the context that is used in the US. Typically, Chinese use high context, whereas Americans use low context to communicate. So, by understanding the context, it will be easier for people from different backgrounds to understand and work with each other. After trying to understand, we also need to adapt with the problems we meet too. The thing is that we need to learn how other people's culture differ from yours. We need to observe and learn the meaning of verbal and nonverbal communication. Basically, sometimes other people cannot change the ways they behave, so we might need to understand and try to get along well with them. Instead of all those issues, cross-cultural communication is also important for everybody. Majority of people in the world might need this in order to success in their life. It is valid for business world, international students, daily life, and tourists. People need to act differently to communicate with different cultures in their society. Thus, we need this skill for living. In short, intercultural communication happens almost all around the world, since there are many different cultures in each country, so people might need to learn more about what it is and understand the barriers that might possibly occur in their own society. Plus, they have to try different ways in order to overcome all those obstacles in cross-cultural communication, and then they will succeed.